Go.
My name is Isaiah Orlando Vega. I am the Republican, Conservative, and Medical Freedom Party candidate here in the 37th Council District of New York. I am running to restore our medical freedoms, to provide safety for the community, and to uplift our community and ensure they have the resources they need to prosper. In 2021, we saw that the government overstepped their boundaries and imposed tyrannical mandates upon us, causing people to be fired from their jobs and people like me to stay out of work. Today, those people still do not have their jobs because the government refuses to rehire them with back pay. And I'm running for all these people of New York to have their medical freedoms, and that we, as New Yorkers, will strive for medical freedoms. Now, another issue that I have found here in the community is that people don't feel safe walking around anymore. You have people that used to walk around here around 10 p.m., 12 p.m., late at night, and now people are sheltering themselves after, here after 5 p.m. and they don't even want to step out. And of course, the community always remains important. Our churches, our right to practice our faith, and of course, having all the resources we need to prosper. And that's why I'm running with Sandy Nurse in the general election here in New York City, November 7th, 2023.
So I want to talk about the whole controversy that this council member, the current coming right here, Sandy Nurse, which is an office only open 20 hours a week. I want you to talk about that, right? Before we get to the next the controversy I want to talk about. But how do you feel about how only open 20 hours a week?
So 20 hours a week is not enough for people to come and see constituent services. Some people have to do things later in the afternoon, and according to the times there's not a lot of, early hours in the morning. And of course, you have people that work late, working class people in our district that might not have the time to even visit the office, in crucial late times. So I believe that the office hours should be extended to at least 35 hours, if not 40. And I hope, if she doesn't do it, that if I'm elected, I will commit to 35 to 40 hours in the office.
So 20 hours a week is in New York State is part-time. So do you think she's a part-time councilwoman?
I can't say that for sure. I'm sure she's very busy in the city council, but these office hours need to be extended for the people of our district.
So yeah, I understand that. So now let's get to this right now. So there's another controversy right now that happened recently in the city council this past Thursday. So Councilmember said Intervew called the interest of bill. She was on the Republican Party, the same party that you're on, for an injury hatred bill resolution. Now there was 2 council members that voted no, and there was 4 members that voted that stayed absentee from the voting. Now 2 of them were Shahana Hanif, that served in the 39th district, and the one is your opponent, the incumbent Sandy Nurse. So I want to know how you feel about Sandy Nurse voting no on the resolution to end hatred day. I want to know what you think about it.
Well, I believe, like a lot of people, especially Jews in my district, we're very puzzled, we're very confused, and we're very concerned on why Sandy Nurse voted no. As you may know, Sandy Nurse failed to give remarks regarding why she voted no, and I would like to extend the offer to Sandy Nurse, explain why we made that decision. Because, the people have the right to know. Now, as far as the anti-hatred bill goes, it was already endorsed by the state of New York and the county of Nassau, and April 29th, is proclaimed as Anti-Hatred Day throughout the whole state of New York and the county of Nassau. So I'm also quite confused, why we had absentations and no votes to a holiday that is already proclaimed throughout, the entire state of New York. But if I'm elected council member in the 37th district, I can promptly say, and commit that the Jews of this city and of my district will not have to worry about me failing to stand up for them, because I will always stand up for the Jews in our district. Hate is a moral issue, it is not a political issue.
So here's your opponent right here.
Hello, guys. How you doing, Sandy?
So Sandy, I know, are you in the liberty of talking to us about your no vote on the injury hatred bill? Or are you in the liberty? If you don't want to answer, it's fine.
No, not right now.
Not right now, just making sure.
I would just like
Did you make it sit down?
I did, yes. I would just like to sit down. I don't want to I believe we all have the right to explain ourselves. A lot of people are very worried on why you voted no, and I would like to send you out for any time to explain
Yeah.
your
I'll be
motion.
happy to sit down.
Of course, yeah. I'd like to have that talk.
Hi.
Remember my friend Martha?
Hi, Martha. Nice to meet you. Hi, Vega. Well, do you have my phone?
No. Would you like to give it to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll write it down.
Call the office and you can have the time. Oh, it's here.
Oh, okay.
So, Sandy, can you explain to us? Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember. So, we heard it here from the Councilmember, Sandy Nurse, the incumbent, that she's willing to speak with Mr. Isaiah Vega about her no answer to the injury hatred bill. So we didn't get the answer from Sandy Nurse, who came out here nice for us, nice with me, because we have our little issues. Shout out to Sandy Nurse. We have little issues. She blocked me and now she unblocked me. But she didn't answer the question, and I understand, like, hey, she should answer, but she willing to answer that question prior to Mr. Isaiah O. Vega. We are the people of New York City are ready to get the answer from Mr. Isaiah O. Vega the one day or the one time that she gets to sit down with Mr. Isaiah O. Vega, because he's a good guy, he's a great man, and she had to give him the time of day because she's not like the we'll get to this other part later. So speaking of this right now, since we're off that topic, what's your feeling about congestion price? I know right here there's a lot of cars coming up right now. There's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of train traffic too. We can't even hear, so to speak. So what you feel about the whole congestion pricing situation? Since Sandy Nurse is totally for it, and you're against it, you spoke at the rally on the 59th Street tramway with Mr. Andrew Fine and New York City NYC Drivers Unite, and the elected officials, Calvin Yeager, and the whole crew, Ari Kagan and Mr. David Weprin, Honorary David Weprin, state assembly member. So, what's your feelings about the congestion pricing situation? What will you do if from the opponent that just came outside and which was cordial with us?
Yes. So, in regards to the end congestion pricing rally, I was happy to speak alongside many colleagues, both Democratic and Republican, in opposing congestion pricing. My stance on that has not changed. I understand the necessity of the MTA. I actually took the bus here today to the office. But, congestion pricing is not the answer to taxing the people, the working class people of our state and our city, in paying for what is considered necessary, which is the MTA. I believe in auditing the MTA to figuring out, what the money is being spent on and how it's being spent on. And if we can see that, the MTA is using their money efficiently, which I believe they're not, but we'll have to see, then we'll see how the money can be allocated. But until then, I'm still 100% opposed to congestion pricing until we figure out more common sense solutions.
So there's another thing we'll talk about right now about the whole Intro 632. Did you hear about that bill? That's where convicted felons and anybody with a criminal record don't have to be vetted to be living inside their apartment buildings. How do you feel about that? And your opponent's totally for it. She's one of the biggest advocates for it. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to answer because I know she was out there trying to see what's going on, and you're a nice person, and I'm a nice person myself, so I didn't want to bombard her because she didn't have to come outside. She could each call NYPD on us because we're out here,
right.
But she didn't do that. So shout out to her for not calling NYPD now on us because we're doing a press conference. So while we're here, I'm going to talk about how you feel about this bill being issued to City Council, how they want this to be in City Council, and this councilman right here actually defended one of the people that spoke at the panel, Mr. Douglas Powell, who's part of Local New York, calling Asians racist, and the neighborhood Rego Park, most racist neighborhood in New York City. Now, how do you feel about that? She defended them more points. So how do you feel about Sanders going that approach, and what we do for Intro 632?
Well, in regards to Mr. Douglas Powell, I don't, condone the fact that he was, defended in that hearing, especially considering his, past nature. In regards to the bill itself, I have a lot of people telling me, it's not right that small homeowners should have to, deal with the consequences of not, being able to screen their tenants. And here in the Cypress Hills, we have a lot of small homeowners that, are struggling because of people not paying their rent for the past 3 years. And now inviting violent felons into their homes, it will decrease the likelihood of them renting out to people. And in turn, it will cause for a lack of housing that is so desperately needed, especially since we're in a housing crisis today.
Yeah, it is a housing crisis. So speaking of housing crisis, I know that Sandy, your opponent on the incumbent, she's affiliate of Open New York for All. So I think you know about Open New York for All. They basically like a pro-developer organization. What we do different, because mostly you see the area around here, everything's changing with the developments. What do you do if you was a council member with the land use? Would you be pro for the little person, or you be for the big person, for the developer? Because she's mostly pro-developer.
Right. No, I am for the little person. I am for saving our small businesses. Today we have leases that expire after 1 month, after 2 months, and it's killing the small businesses. It will kill the small homeowners, and we have to defend the small homeowners more than anybody. I'm thankful that here in Cypress Hills there is a zone where predatory buyers cannot harass homeowners into selling their homes anymore. I would like to extend that to many other parts of the city where the elderly are constantly abused and harassed, to try and sell their homes after living here for more than 40, 50, even 30 years. So we have to protect the little guy, always.
Yeah. So speaking of predator, so what do you feel about? This is another topic I want to talk about the whole of good cause eviction. So I know that's a big hot bill in New York State. He's going to target the city. So how do you feel about good cause eviction? How would it affect small landlords?
Right.
Now, of course, it wouldn't really affect the big landlords because they got enough money to cover. But it really going to affect the small landlords, just as that like small property owners of New York and the Small Landlords Coalition. That's basically going on social media.
Right.
So how you feel about good cause eviction? Because your opponent is your big propeller of good cause eviction in New York State. So how you feel about that?
Well, as one of my recent tweets have said, killing good cause eviction in the recent state assembly budget is a huge win. And I am personally opposed to good cause eviction 100%. It will hurt small homeowners. And, I even had one woman tell me there's a tenant in my apartment that has not paid rent for 3 years. How can I help? And honestly, I couldn't tell her where to go, because a lot of the politicians in the area are for good cause eviction. And so, I am personally opposed to good cause eviction. I will do anything in my power to prevent it from being passed because of the homeowners in my area. We have to protect them, and good cause eviction will, in the most simplest of terms, hurt them bigly.
All right, so the second thing, and now I want to talk about, is this whole situation with the open street situation. I know your opponent be out there with transportation alternatives, and she stands with them, trying to advocate for their causes. I know there's a lot of people who say don't want open streets. How will you feel? What would you do different if you was a council member with the open street situation? Because she's a big advocate for it.
Now, I'm not aware of any open streets that have been opened in this area. I would have to assess that as it comes. If the people are opposed to it, I will listen to the people, and if they're for it, we'll work with that. I'm not opposed to, listening to what the community has to say in regards to that.
Now, speaking of listening to the community, we listen to the whole community or listen to a certain few? Because people complain about that.
Right.
We are just like the lyric of the Cater Senator. She's alleging that Councilmember City Nurse is only listened to a certain few, mainly the people that only get her to political office, people that don't to their campaign. So will you listen to every constituent, even the donors of your campaign, or will it be everybody?
It will have to be everybody. Anyone that comes to my office, even people outside the district, I'll have to listen to them and take their case one by one. I've lived in Cypress Hills for more than a decade now. I've lived in Bushwick for, a good portion of my life as well. I have ties to both communities, and even the communities I don't have ties to, like Ocean Hill and Brownsville, I will have to listen to them all, because just because my voters voted me in, the people that will vote for me are going to put me in, doesn't mean I'm going to neglect the people that don't vote for me. Serving the community is about serving everyone that lives here, not just the few that got you here in the first place.
So I want to talk about this right now before we get into the more tougher topics. So this is one of the tough topics. So I know your opponent, the incumbent, she actually supported State Assembly Member Juan Ardila from 37th District up in Queens. So as we know that he's been accused of sexual assault. Last month was National Sexual Awareness Month, and St. Nurse hasn't called for this guy to resign. How do you feel about that?
I I asked Sandy Nurse on Twitter to ask Juan Ardilla to resign. I believe he should resign, and Juan Ardilla has remains confident. He has remained, standing in his place. He doesn't seem like he will resign, but it would still be nice if Sandy Nurse asked him to resign. Hopefully he does, but if he doesn't, a lot of people already asked him to resign, and just because they asked him doesn't mean he will. So that ultimately becomes up to Juan Ardilla.
All right, so now the next question is kind of more tougher if you want to answer or not. So I know the general election is going to happen, and after I think June, she's going to win her election unopposed. You only election unopposed. So now most of going to be a lot of attacks until the general election. So how we feel she starts saying, or her people start saying that, well, you're a right winger and you're anti-drag story hour because you're on the party where the alleged hate of the trans rights and the gun control and all etc. is there. How will you respond to that if she come on attack, or her opponents come on attack saying that you're a right winger, you're against human lives and you're against drag story hour and stuff like that? How will you attack that?
Right. If you're aware, my former opponent Mitchell Bosch was the one that was attending Drag Queen Story Hour counter protest. I was not there. Firmly, I am not, for or against. I believe it's a live and let live situation. If parents choose to bring their kids to that, who are we as people to tell them, not to take your kids there? Personally, it's not an issue, to me, because I'm more focused on the community, and fighting against Drag Queen Story Hour is not for the community. It's simply a vanity project for social media. So she cannot accuse me of that because I have not been involved in any way, shape, or form in those protests.
Now, another accusation she'll make is that you will be partisan in the government, like Vicky Palladino, where you will only want to work with your own people, your own line, other than the Democrats. Are you really able to work with Democrats?
Of course.
And I know so. And I want to know what you think about the progressives. Are you willing to work with progressives because they have kind of policies about good cause eviction and defunding the police and etc. So how will you feel about that? The progressive.
Anyone that wants to work with me, I will work with them to the best of my ability. I know in terms of the Progressive Caucus, we may not agree on everything, but we still have to work together as a government to function properly. I will work with the Democrats to the best of my ability. I will not just simply vote on partisan party lines because, my faith in God comes first, and whatever God wants me to do for my community, I will put that, in my legislative action.
So we want to know who's backing you, who you getting back right now at the moment, who's backing you, supporting the GOP, supporting you. How's that with them? The GOP, the New York GOP,
Well, I'm proud to have the endorsement of the Brooklyn GOP and the Brooklyn Conservative Party. I have their full backing. Other than that, they did get me on the ballot, and I have a fellow Republican candidate here with me right now. So I work more closely with the Medical Freedom Party in terms of getting petitions and volunteers. But as far as the Brooklyn Conservatives have gone, I'd say the Brooklyn Conservatives have been a much more helpful organization than the Brooklyn.
Now, and the second thing I want to know before, it's kind of a hard question. I don't know if you want to answer or not. So, since you're part of the Medical Freedom Party, I know there's a lot of controversy with the whole anti-vaccine movement, where the Democrats and a lot of people that's for the vaccine that say that, well, the vaccine people they're not right upstairs, they're crazy, they're divisive. They want to cause trouble. So how you respond to that if they ever come out with that tax for the general election?
Well, it's not about the vaccine, it's about the mandates. You can get vaccinated. I personally don't care. I'm personally unvaccinated. But, if you want to get the vaccine, that's totally up to you. It's your choice. Now, as far as the mandates go, that's where the issue lies, because the government has overstepped their boundaries and trying to get people to vaccinate themselves without, their consent. It's about, if you don't control your body, you are a slave. And to that, I say it's not about the vaccine, it's about the mandates, and it's for preventing the mandates from ever happening again.
Oh, perfect. So what you feel about the whole socialism situation in New York City? If people start saying that you're anti-socialist and etc., will you respond to that?
Well, I would have to ask, how do you define socialism and, the socialist policies that you speak of? Because I'm not sure what you mean by anti-socialism.
Yeah, progressive causes, what you mean?
Well, to that I say, like I said before, I'm willing to work with the progressives in whatever I can to the best of my ability. I wouldn't call myself anti-socialism. People have the right to their own political opinions. That is the First Amendment. And You know, we're not here to curb speech. We're here to protect it.
Yes, of course. And with the crime, how do you feel about bail reform? Your opponent is a big proponent of bail reform. She want to keep bail reform in. She actually spoke last week at a rally hosted by the Freedom Agenda, which is home by the Urban Justice Center. She funds them. And it was a lot of controversy with that because one of her co-workers in the city council, Timmy Caban, actually was having a PDA moment with a level 3 sex offender of Keem Browder. So how you feel about that, like her takes on bail reform?
Well, personally, I'm opposed to bail reform. I believe it should be repealed. You know, we've seen a lot of issues that come from bail reform. People that are re-released, you know, the same day or the next day. And it has made our city a lot worse in terms of crime. You know, and it's not just a crime issue, it's a mental health issue. Before we address the mental health issue, we have to repeal bail reform, get the crime under control, and then we can start addressing the mental health issue more effectively.
Yeah, so that's perfect. And I want to know what you feel about the whole discovery reform situation. I know it's recently got blocked in the speedy trial. How you feel about that? About discovery reform and speedy trial,
Yes,
because that's part of bail reform too. It got blocked, but how you feel about that? If they were trying to get it introduced to the city, back to the state assembly, the Republicans, or they want to try to put up.
Yeah, so you know, if I would have to look into that. You know, I'm not too well informed on that aspect of the situation. This is news to me, but if I did know, I would have an answer for you.
And I want to know about how you feel about the sanitation issue in the city. I know she was sitting in the chair. There's certain things in the district that she needs to pick up on, but how you feel about sanitation? She said she sanitation chair.
Yeah.
I know she's a committee chair, so she has a trouble with it.
Yeah, I actually had a constituent come up to me and say there's a lot of trash on Fulton Street, and, you know, in the streets in general. And if you look over there, you know, there is some trash around here, right near the councilman's office. Now, this isn't a criticism of her, but, you know, there is an increasing trash issue in our city. And, you know, a clean street leads to, you know, a safer neighborhood.
Yeah.
So it is something we have to pick up on, and hopefully, you know, if I'm elected, we will address it more effectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's perfect. So I think I'm done my question list. I get some more questions back out. So I want to speak to your partner here. Like, she's running the 33rd district. She's outside Senator's office. So why do you support Mr. Vega? You know, he's running against her outside office, and you saw how his opponent came out, been cordial, been nice to the guy. Yeah, I know. So loud. So let's say that you're being cordial with him. How you feel about that? Like, how you feel about you running with him and you supported him?
I'm absolutely honored to be running with Isaiah. I had known him for a couple of years now. I met him through the Medical Freedom Party. We're both part of the Medical Freedom Party. He is unbelievably intelligent. All of us go to him for advice and guidance about policy issues, about how the city government works. You couldn't get somebody better qualified. His principles, and he's highly principled and honorable. We're both, I am as well as he, I'm the Republican, Conservative, and Medical Freedom Party candidate, and I am so happy that I'm able to run alongside of him, and anybody in this district would be very wise to look into his candidacy and vote for him. I endorse him entirely.
Thank you. So that's perfect. Thank you so much. So, Mr. Vega, any last words you got to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, your support is enough. I would appreciate any cash contributions you could give to me. But if not, I hope you go to the polls in November and vote for me, Isaiah Vega.
Do it again because it's loud.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
These trains are horrible.
I know.
Anybody who wants to volunteer?
Yeah, any volunteers, cash contributions, or anything of the like is very much appreciated. I have a website, vegalunaforcitycouncil.com, and I hope to receive your vote in November. Vote for Isaiah Orlando Vega on November 7th, 2023 for City Council.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.